Hi everyone, welcome back to Global Semester, where we're all about becoming better cross-cultural representatives of King Jesus locally and globally. In today's video, we'll continue talking about applying the anthropological approach to understanding culture by looking at 5 examples that we've experienced living in Guinea, West Africa. Our goal is to achieve what's called Intercultural Communication Competence, or ICC for short, which means the ability to communicate effectively and appropriately in various cultural contexts. If you stick around until the end, there will be a bonus part where I'll suggest a framework of questions that you can ask in whichever culture you immerse yourself in. In Guinea, West Africa, we lived among a people group called the Fouta Djallon Fulani. There are many Fulani people groups all over West Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa. We love, respect, and appreciate the Fulani people and their culture. One of the first things you will encounter in any culture is how they greet each other. What do they say? Do they do any gestures to show respect or indifference? Do you look at them directly or indirectly? One of the first things we noticed in this town of about 7,000 that everyone greeted everybody. You walk down the street, you greet. You walk to their weekly market, you greet. You visit a compound to visit a friend, you greet. Everyone greets you and you greet everyone. Even if you were late for a meeting, the person would go around the room to shake everyone's hand, to greet them even without the verbal greetings. It was a little jarring, especially if you come from a city where you don't greet everyone you pass by. But in the town in Guinea, we learned to get used to greeting everyone in the street. And their verbal greeting is not just, "Hey, how's it going?" that we might do here in Canada. It was an extended greeting that could last up to 2 minutes. And this greeting routine is fascinating from a linguistic anthropological point of view, because you already get an insight into the culture and their worldview.
C'est la salutation.
Yarama Maria.
Mariama, Yarama.
Yarama go. Anjomba ka tao.
Mariama, Yarama.
Now here's a translated version of a typical greeting. You are thanked. You are thanked. Is there no evil where you came from? Peace only. Is there no evil here where you are? Peace only. Thanks be to God. How's your family? They are with health. And you? They are with health. How are the kids? Peace only. And you? They are with health. How's the work rolling along? Oh, it's rolling, thanks be to God. How's your business here? It's rolling little by little. And your health is good? Thanks be to God. See you later, if God wills. See you later, if God wills. Did you notice what part of their worldview was highlighted in this short greeting dialogue? First, you might have noticed the other-centeredness of their greeting by being thankful for seeing the other person and by asking about their family, kids, work, and health. Secondly, you might have noticed their awareness of the supernatural when they ask, "Is there no evil where you came from?" Because most of them grew up with a folklore and stories of supernatural explanations for many things as part of their power-fear worldview. Thirdly, you may have noticed their response, peace only. And even when the situation is not good, the response indicates that this is their desire and hope for the future. They want peace, not evil. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, they are always acknowledging God, who is all-powerful and who can will good things to happen and prevent evil things from happening. Now, this greeting becomes so rote and involuntary that perhaps they may not be intentionally thinking about these things. But it is especially through the repetition from a very young age, when they learn these greetings, that these are the values that become embedded into their individual psyche and collective psyche. When people get used to you greeting them on the street, and they know that you've been around a while, you might start to get invited to join them to eat their midday meal. Then you discover that they eat together at a large communal plate with their right hand on the floor. This will likely be the first test for someone living cross-culturally. If you're like me and you come from a Western culture where we eat at a table with our own plates and our own set of cutlery, this experience of eating with Guineans will be jarring. This is where we have to guard against ethnocentricity and to encourage cultural relativism. We have to put aside any feelings of unease or even disgust. We have to set aside our reservations about how clean and safe this is, because it is. It's worked for their culture for generations. Now it's time to dig deep and dig in. Then you learn that you only eat your sector of the communal plate. That's the pizza slice portion that's closest to you. And you're supposed to have a wall of rice between you and your neighbors next to you. If there are meat and vegetables at the center of the plate, you're supposed to wait for the older person to take a portion of the meat first, or they'll flick a portion of the meat for you to eat. If you're still hungry, you can expand your pizza pie portion and eat until you're full. Then you wash your hand. Remember, you're supposed to be doing all this eating and tearing portions of meat and vegetables with your right hand. Because in many cultures, the right hand is used for eating, and the left hand is for cleaning yourself after you go to the toilet. When you eat like this for a few times, you might find that there is a sense of community, a sense of familial bonding that is built when you eat from a common plate. It really gets you to understand their collectivist way of thinking, doing, and being. And it gets you connected to your food in ways that you might not even think about. In a weird way, you get connected to the meat that you're eating, or the warm vegetable that has been prepared for you. Remember, the important thing here is not to judge one cultural tradition as better than the other. That's ethnocentrism. But that there are reasons why each does things differently, and that's cultural relativism. I have to be willing to understand and accept that there is a reason why people do things the way they do them. Cultural anthropologists have identified cultures as low-context societies or high-context societies. Low-context cultures use language to explicitly communicate something directly. High-context cultures use nonverbal and contextual cues to communicate something indirectly. Many Western cultures tend to be low-context societies, where we say what we mean, or we mean what we say. Many Eastern cultures, on the other hand, tend to be high-context, where we need to become more aware of the situation and to decipher what is being communicated indirectly. I had made a Guinean friend who, one day, started talking to me about his brother. He and his brother shared a phone that their dad gave them. But his brother is like the black sheep of the family, apparently, rowdy and unruly. His brother uses the phone most of the time, and his brother is not often home. Then my friend starts talking about how his brother ran away from home and was gone for weeks. As I was listening to my friend telling this long, drawn-out story about his brother, I realized that he wasn't telling me about his brother. He was asking me for a phone. I think we had a good enough friendship that he understood that we, as a family rule, don't give out handouts. We don't want to be seen as the rich moneybags from the West who hand out money and create dependency. Our goal was to meet needs that would encourage interdependency and sufficiency. And so, as I realized he was asking me for a phone, I started to think about some work that I could give him so that he could save up for a phone, which I did a few days later. That, to me, stands out as a classic high-context, indirect communication that helped me gain a better understanding and appreciation for that way of doing things, even though it puzzled me so much at the time. There's an interesting custom among the Guinean Fulani called Sanokoyagal, or playful teasing, joking, or trading insults between clans. There are four main noble clans, you see: the Baris, the Sos, the Bas, and the Jallos. Here's how it works. The Jallos and the Bas tease each other. The Sos and the Baris tease each other. And it's almost like a game of one-upsmanship. One would start by saying that the other is a thief. Then they would retort by saying that the other was their slave. They would continue ridiculing the character and lineage of the other, escalating as much as they can, all in good fun, and end with laughter, high fives, and handshakes. When we lived in the small town of 7,000, we adopted the Ba family name because of our landlord, who was our dad in the compound where we lived. Then, when we moved to another town, our compound mom was a Jallo. So it wasn't long before the Sanakuyagal started and we would play along with our new mom in that community. However, there was one day when I was having a bad day and the whole insulting, slavery, demeaning the other thing got to me. And even though I didn't say anything, I think it showed in my face as I just became quiet and the conversation ended. The following day, our compound mom knocked at our door and presented us with bananas. She didn't say anything about the previous day, she just greeted us politely and gave the bananas and left. Then I realized that she had recognized that I had been offended somehow and offered the banana as a peace offering to apologize without saying words directly to that effect. That was another example of high context communication where I didn't say anything to express feeling offended and where the gift was the contextual symbol of apology that mended the relationship. I think it helped that we had been in Guinea for a while then, because I may not have picked up on her way of apologizing indirectly. And that's the importance of cultural immersion. It helps us to pick up on things more and more over time. In this final example, it was also interesting to observe adaptation of culture and resilience of people. During the Ebola outbreak in West Africa in 2014, we remained in Guinea for a few months before our company strongly recommended a relocation. While we were there in Guinea, we were cautious in how we interacted with people and listened to medical and health authorities, not unlike the current pandemic. Everyone took seriously how devastating Ebola was if people weren't cautious and considerate of others. Because of this, we started to observe how people changed their way of doing things in light of this new culture-affecting factor of disease. Instead of the normal way of greeting with their long handshakes during the extended verbal greeting, people started to greet each other by having their right hands touch their own hearts. And when they ate with others that were not part of their family bubbles, they invested in spoons and plastic bowls. They also had a water and bleach solution that they had around for people to wash their hands with to kill any potential virus that could be transmitted. That to me was a testament of the resiliency of people and their ability to adapt their culture as the need and circumstances arise. I trust that this gives us some hope as well as we now globally face this COVID-19 pandemic. And I hope that we recognize that God has created people and cultures to be adaptable and resilient in the face of unexpected and unintended circumstances. But we can only get through this pandemic together, working together to care for one another, working together to adapt with the knowledge that we will mostly come out of this profoundly affected, working together to understand each other's cultures so that we can step into each other's experiences. As I promised at the beginning, here is a framework of questions that you can reflect on as you engage cross-culturally and become effective communicators and representatives of King Jesus locally and globally. I've taken these from the Alberta Education website as they try to educate high schoolers about worldview and critical thinking. Here are 7 key ideas that they highlight. The first is geography. What role do geographical factors such as climate and location play in how people look at the world and behave in it? Do people live in mountainous areas? Do they do things differently from those in coastal areas? Does living in arid regions affect their migration and where they settle? The second is time. In what terms is time viewed by a society? Is it mechanical with clocks and watches, or natural with the seasons, the sun, and the moon? Are they time-oriented and get to places and meetings at precise moments? Or are they event-oriented and they get there when they get there? Are they short-term oriented? That means that they act and react to circumstances in the present. Or are they long-term oriented in that they set goals and plans for the future? The third is society. What roles are available to individuals in society? Who holds power and how is power maintained? Who has status and how do they get it? Are certain benefits available to some and not to others? Are the people mostly individualistic or collectivistic? Is the power distance flat and egalitarian, or is it hierarchical? The fourth is values. How do people in a society act toward each other? How do people in a society act toward people in other societies or groups? Do people value risk-taking, or do they try to avoid uncertainty? The fifth is beliefs. What beliefs do people have about life and death, about their environment? What is their posture toward God or the supernatural? The sixth is economy. Who controls the resources? What is being produced? How will it be produced? For whom? How is property distributed or protected? And seventh, knowledge. How do people develop knowledge? What ways of knowing are accepted? Who has access to this knowledge? How is it valued? Where or in whom does the knowledge reside? This last category reminds me of the African proverb, when an old man dies, a library burns to the ground. You see, older people are venerated because of their knowledge, wisdom, and experience. So this concludes the anthropological approach to understanding worldview. This is by no means the end. We will likely revisit these concepts again at a later time with other cultural contexts. But what do you think? What are your experiences with other cultures? What are other questions you would include to learn about another culture? Share your thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course you can check out more videos right now. Shalom v'chesed ve'emet, my friends.